So this is going to be a video having a go at actually creating something for Watson Beat and seeing what it does with it. So there's a commission out in the minute, and it's to write a piece that's a minute long with the theme of home. So I came up with this quite simple looking melody really, and the whole idea of it with being home is that we establish the key as sort of C, and we move to a chord at this point, F sharp major, which is not totally as far away harmonically as you can get from C, but it really feels like it, I think, when you kind of get there. It's a tritone away, and then to very quickly move back to establish C as kind of home. So we've got this kind of idea, and then what we need to do to get Watson Beat working is give it a MIDI input. You might be thinking that is a bit lazy, not written very much, but from what I've read, Watson Beat works best when you don't give it a huge amount of information. You don't want to overload it. So I've created MIDI files of just the top line here, the melody, and also the melody with very basic outline of the harmony idea that kind of goes with this. So I'm using MuseScore for this because it's free, open source, works on lots of platforms. And if I go export, I can bring this over. I can export it as a MIDI file, and I can do that to lots of. I can kind of export this idea essentially. So if I hit export, then I'm going to be able to export it. But I've already done that. So you can see here I've got home.mid and home harmony .mid, because I was kind of interested to see what it does with both of them, and also I was interested to see what it does with kind of like moving from one key to quite an extreme kind of chord and back again, and just see what it does with that. So that's that out of the way. So if we remember what we need to do to kind of get this working is I've been kind of playing around with it to see how I can kind of get it to work and things like that. So let's just open up a new window. Here we go. So I've got, this is my Watson Beat folder that I downloaded essentially. So I've got that. You need to go to the source, and then we need to kind of drag it in while holding Command, which kind of sets the folder as to where we are. And then we've got this bit of code up here. So I'm going to copy this, but we need to change it. So one of the things that I've been looking at is some of these ini files. So the ini files are what specify the kind of parameters that your piece might have. So you can actually specify some things. So if we wanted to go for anthematic, then if we open this now, I've got a piece of software that I can open it, which helps me kind of code with it, called Atom, and it does some auto completion stuff. But we don't actually need that. I can just right click on it and open with just text editor and just edit the text. Now what I've done, if you notice with space, is I've created space user. So I've still got the original file in case I did anything that broke it. But we could change some information in here and sort of, change the duration of things. We can change the mood, and what we can do is if we are in the Watson Beat folder, if I open customize ini, I get this file, and this kind of tells me what I can customize and how. So for instance, if we look up complexity, which is here, then we could change this, for instance, from super simple to maybe semi-complex. So let's go semi complex. Now the thing is, if I was using Atom, the other piece of software, it would probably give me a bit of auto completion to help me get that right and make sure it's the right thing in there. And then we can sort of change some of this information around as well. This is quite a simple sort of file, so let's just undo that for now. But if we looked at, for instance, the space one, it's a little more complex, and this is Atom with it in. So for instance, if I wanted to change this to super simple, then when I start writing super, I might not do it for this one, but some of them will, you can see it's starting to autocomplete super simple. That's how it likes it. So we can kind of change things around, but we can change more and more things around. So like must have different parts of different sections and time signatures, BPMs, what kind of energy we want it to have, and things like that. So we can customize quite a lot. So you would create an ini file, customize an ini file for the actual piece. And I've kind of been experimenting around with these and seeing, just what it does when we change different sort of elements of it. So once we've kind of got that, so I've pasted in to terminal here. So we did the control drag from the source folder. So we're in the source folder. Then I've got this line Python wb dev.py. So the slash or hyphen I is the input for the kind of ini file that we want. So the ini file, let's choose Inspire or really any of them. We're just doing this as a test, really. So if we go and change the ini file from reggae pop to, let's go for Inspire. And in terms of the MIDI file, what I'm going to do is add it to MIDI in here. So I'll add both of them, and we might just try one out for the demo. We'll just try the melody one out without the harmony. So where it says -m is for MIDI, so we want to change Mary to home. That's the name of it. Let's put in home. There we go. And the output, I'll just check, is empty. So if we run this code now, so it's basically Python wb dev.py. The input, so the ini file we're going to use is the Inspire sort of template, which has been developed through machine learning. And then we're going to use the MIDI file home we created that I showed you at the beginning. We're going to output to the output folder there. So let's see if this runs. There we go, it's running. And you can see it's creating all the MIDI files. So it gives me loads of MIDI files. And one thing that I worked out is if the piece has different sections to it, so you might notice when we looked at the ini files that some of them, let's try and find one. Let's just open with text editor. So some of them have different sections. Yeah, so you've got different section settings and things like that for them. So what it does is it breaks up the MIDI into lots of different kind of sections. You'll see this in a second. So what I'm going to do is actually not put it in notation software. We're going to chuck it into Logic because I think you can more visually see what it does. Create a new software instrument. Let's create one for now. So you don't need Logic. You could put this into these files into a notation package. But what I would suggest is that you don't put them into the final finished product that you're aiming for. You'll see why in a second. So if we add the files. Right. So yeah, you can see this piece has at least 2 sections of music to it. Yeah, it does. So you can see how it's kind of got the same. So we've got section 1 ARP strings, section 0 ARP strings. If you know anything about coding, it's because most arrays and things like that start at 0 when you're identifying kind of items or indexes within an array. So that's why this section is section 0, and we move on to section 1 in case you're confused about that. But you can see how what we could do, what I would probably do is like trim this back to there, and then this is actually ARP strings, but it's just different section. And then we could put in some markers up here if you wanted to use Logic. So I can do the same with this one because this is drums, cymbals, swell. So we can trim that back and stick it up. Drum, cymbal, swell, there. You see, they don't exactly match, but you can kind of find when most of them are actually the same type of thing. And then I'd have to go through and sort all the instruments out in here, Well, I'm not going to bother because I'm going to put this into musical eventually. But if we went off and muted the drums, because it's going to sound great on a piano. So you can see like Mel 5 is the melody. I'll show you where you can figure that out in a minute. So there's no other drums that are kind of non-pitch based. Let's see what it did with it. Let's check my sound settings. Should work now. Let's get rid of those. Yeah, so that's what it's done with it. And you see, it's not really like a fully formed piece or anything, and there are some bits I don't like. There's some kind of dissonance a couple of times in here, but it's kind of given us a start. If you think what we gave it like 4 bars of very simple melody, really simple rhythms. That's what I like. What it's done is that it's come up with some really interesting rhythms that it's using. And it'd be cool to spend some time like analyzing actually what it's kind of done with the melody notes. Like it looks like it's picked up on the whole using C sharp and C together, which is what I did in the file, and like this note I used. Yeah, so it's kind of picked up on some of the melodic, that kind of chromaticism thing. You see it's picked up on that? That's kind of interesting. So it'd be interesting to kind of look through the whole kind of thing and see what it's kind of picked up on and what it's doing. What are the bass notes doing? It'd be kind of interesting. Where's bass? Double basses. So, oh, that's kind of weird. It's using those notes, but then it's down to C, but picking up on this kind of C sharp thing. It's a bit like Jaws, what it's come up with there. But it kind of works, isn't it? We could definitely develop that into something. So what I'd probably do from here is actually, like I was showing you, is get it also like these are, so this is left hand piano. So there's probably left hand piano for it to match up with maybe. That's piano 1. But I would kind of match everything up so it's just all in streams. Then I would glue this stuff together using a bit of glue, like that. And then I would rebounce this stuff out to MIDI files. So you go like up to File, Export, and so I can do all tracks as MIDI files or selected kind of track as MIDI files. So I basically get it all out as a simpler thing. So I've not got, do you see here, you've got section 0 and then section 1. And that's kind of difficult to deal with in notation. I'm not going to go through this in the session because it would take ages of me going kind of through this. But basically then I import that stuff. So if we're in MuseScore, I can go to kind of, I think it's open is what they want. And you should be able to see that I can open MIDI files. There you go, there's a MIDI file. I can open them. So you go File and Open, not Import in here, which is a bit confusing. And from there I can develop a piece, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to probably have a go at taking as many of the ideas as possible and sort of scoring them out for orchestral instruments and see what we end up with. But that's a really quick video demonstrating how we could use um, kind of Watson Beat as an augmented kind of composition tool. So it's come up with a lot of these ideas, well, it came up with all these ideas on its own based on the theme that I put in. And I think these pieces are almost like, theme and AI variation, really, is what Watson Beat does. So yeah, hopefully I'll be able to put the final finished version up when I've got a piece that developed from this.